Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in today's episode, I just want to encourage you to show up for the people who are listening to your podcast, streaming your service, or whatever it is that you may have, because so often we can become so discouraged, right? Especially in the process, because when you're first starting something, you look silly, right? You may be saying things that you're like, oh, I don't know if I should have said that. I'm not sure if I communicated that effectively, right? I've had that happen to me several times over, but I found that if you just keep going, it gets better, right? And the thing about fear and anxiety is that when you really think about this, we do this, I personally think, in terms of survival, right? But when you look at anxiety and you look at fear from a stance of observation, you find that everything that you've ever feared and everything you were ever anxious for has actually never happened. So I know I talked to you guys about meditation, and here's the thing, I got to share this with you guys because I was someone who made a lot of mistakes, and they weren't really my own mistakes. I can honestly say that I am a very good decision maker, and I get better with time, of course. By no means have I reached a certain status of perfection, right? It's just continuous. But I've always been a very good decision maker because I've always been a leader. So whether that was following my heart or just merely, just simply making my own decisions, I've always been solid in that space. So I made a lot of mistakes, assuming that I can learn from other people, right? And this is why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. And I talk to you guys about like mentorship and just leadership and just the whole nine, because I didn't have that. I didn't have any role models. And so I was always seeking to learn something from someone, right? I was never seeking to be led, but I was always seeking to learn something. I gleaned from knowledge. I was always very curious. I remain curious. I'm still very curious to this day, and I'm a very fast learner. And so I made a lot of mistakes because in my life, I was very big on preparation. You know what I mean? I'm very big on preparation. And so I would always go to the people that were around me, right? The people that were around me, maybe the resources that were around me, right? I'm someone who's definitely very, very resourceful. So I would use the things that were around me thinking that, okay, hey, if I put these things together, I can get to the next level, not recognizing that it wasn't taking all of those things, but maybe just taking one aspect from those things. Do you see what I'm saying? Whether it was just one conversation or coming to this one person for this one thing, rather it be a business related matter. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think so often we can lose our way and we can become discouraged and we can be led astray, right? By just thinking that we can learn from so many different people. So I said to say, be mindful of who you share things with, because I can tell you right now, when someone's constantly beating you down, crushing your dreams, crushing the things that you really want to do and pursue in your life, whether it's purpose, whether it's whatever, right? What I've learned from myself, and it's a very interesting journey, and it's been a crazy journey for me, even just at this point in my life, is, growing up, being I've always been very exceptional, in everything that I do. In the beginning, it was definitely struggling with a little bit of perfectionism. But as I get older, I realize for myself that I just am a very exceptional person. Like, I want to be the best version of myself. And I've always just done that. I've always competed with myself. I could say that genuinely, you know what I mean? And so, it's so crazy because I tell you guys a story about how when I played soccer for 1 year, I became the most improved player, right? And I don't even think it was a year. I think it was for a semester. Well, yeah, it was 1 year because it starts in the fall. And it's so crazy. I seen my soccer coach, right? And I was just journaling and I was talking about how, man, I really wish that I was there that night that she gave me the speech. Someone reached out to me, one of my team members, and they were like, yeah, the coach gave such a great speech about you, just how you're always uplifting people, how you're always doing X, Y, and Z. And I didn't make it because I had people around me, you know what I mean? My life at the time just did not reflect, positivity and good stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so I really have struggled in the sense of my life and making a lot of mistakes, prying myself from those environments and from familiarity, from codependency, and just having to stand on my own. But it's not been easy, so I get on here and I let you know today, like, if you're wanting to do something with your life, understand that, is common as it may feel and it may be, and the sense of like relatability or comfort or connection or whatever you may feel with the people around you, understand that those people are more than likely not here to catapult you forward, but they're actually here to kind of pull you back, you know what I mean? And people don't really it's not that they don't want to see you win or they don't want to see you, doing certain things. Or maybe that's just me, you know what I mean? Kind of like sugarcoating it. But I really do feel as though people can't give what they don't have. Okay. And that's just period. Like if someone's miserable in their own life, if they're kicking their own butts, if they're saying all this nasty, negative stuff about themselves, how in the world do you expect them to show up for you and to be a light in your life and to say something positive about your life? I definitely do think that, people are born with different personality types. I talk about it all the time. In your 20s, there's a lot of unlearning. So your parents may have been very pessimistic and you grew up in that kind of household. So that's kind of something that you're carrying with you throughout your life. But those things make a huge difference in your life. And, being self-motivated and having that belief, it takes a lot of courage to show up and be yourself. Right? Especially when you're on the front line. Like, I told you guys how I realized for myself when it came to podcasting and conversations, I wasn't trying to tailor the message, but I knew that with the things that I wanted to do, with certain things on the line, I wasn't going to be able to get on here and just speak in a way about certain topics. You know what I mean? There's certain dialogue that you use to have conversations, to reach people, to talk about certain like racial issues and political issues and things like that. And so I definitely felt for a brief moment I was being called to advocacy. And I think, later on in the future, I'll get better with time. But yeah, so understand that. And I think that for me, that has been some of the greatest mistakes that I've made has always been listening to another person, thinking that, me, whether it be family, whether it be someone who I personally feel may be a little bit stronger in certain areas, I find great admiration for that. You know what I mean? And I find myself in a space where I'm leaning towards their advice when I was younger. I'm not going to say when I was younger, because honestly, as I get older, it's like, it is what it is. But that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I can honestly say I've made along my journey. And so to really overcome that, it was disconnecting, of course, and coming back to myself, coming back to my roots, coming back to my truth, and coming back to the things that really matter to me and honing in on those things. I think anytime you do something, understand you're going to be met with discouragement. And it's not even just people. That's just what it is. I don't know why, but it seems like whenever you put out some good stuff, some bad stuff comes back too. And maybe you have that little stuff that comes back, you know what I mean? So it's like, you definitely have to program your mind to see the positive things and see the reinforcement of like this good stuff that you have, because a lot of people will very easily, sit in a space with you and tell you all the reasons why it cannot work. And if that's the only person in your space, or, you know what I mean? Like it's very easy for you to become discouraged. I talked to you guys a little bit about my YouTube channel, and, my biggest thing in regards to people saying things like, you can't do multiple things at once. I think it depends on the person, right? And I look forward to talking to you guys a little bit about responsibilities, because, I'm learning so much in my 20s, but I've learned so much thus far. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm only like halfway through. I'm only a couple years in this whole thing, but I am such a fast learner, and I've always been someone who's extremely adaptable. That I don't know if that was just a survival mechanism, honey, growing up. Okay, that was just the way I was raised to do what I do, but that is just how I do things. And so I know for myself, I've gleaned so much from my experiences, and even sitting in this space today as this year concludes, looking back, reflecting over the years and taking a different perspective, it's made me a better person, and it shifted my focus from how I would typically perceive things. You know what I mean? And I know people say like, oh, I'm not handling some things the way I used to handle them. That's literally just recognizing that you have the ability in your mind to change your mind about how you see something, and you don't really need age to do that. And I definitely think another thing for me was recognizing like, man, feeling like, oh, I need to be at this certain age for people to take me serious. Oh, I need to be here for people to take me serious. It was always that disbelief within myself, because, quite honestly, I always knew what I wanted to do, but it was such a fertile process. You know what I mean? I was so young, knowing what it is that I wanted to do around all of my peers who did not know what they wanted to do. And some still don't. And that's fine. It's not a comparative analysis. It's just the truth. Right. And so with that, they were always like beating on me. You know what I mean? And so those were definitely some of the biggest mistakes that I've made. But I just hope that you can glean from this and understand that you got to show up. I think that people don't recognize it, that people really are paying attention to you. Like the moment you come on the front line, the moment that you have a platform, the moment that you decide you're going to do something, people are literally, waiting for you to show up. And I know a lot of times we focus on the people who are waiting for us to fall, right? We focus on the people who are looking forward to our demise. But the truth is that there are a lot of people who actually can learn something from you. And there are a lot of people who look forward to your platform, right? Everybody has a very unique sense of originality that I think that we could bring to the forefront. And, that's another conversation we're going to have about like originality. But I had to get on here really quick. I know the sound quality is not best in this podcast episode. It's just because I'm on the rooftop and I just had to get on here and say this. And this is what I love about Anchor. So make sure you guys check it out if you're wanting to start a podcast. I look forward to sharing so much more. Season 6 is going to be amazing. I'm picking back up and it's going to be lighter. It's going to be more insightful. I just thank everyone who has been listening to this podcast and rocking with me. It means so much. And I hope you guys have an amazing day.